Set 25 years after the events of Terminator 2, the film sees the machine sending an advanced Terminator, designated the Rev 9, back in time to 2020 to kill Danny Ramos, whose fate is connected to the future. The Resistance also sends Grace, an augmented soldier, back in time to defend Danny while they are joined by Sarah Connor and Skynet's T-80 Terminator. Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl, your average viewer here. I recently watched a sci-fi film called Terminator Dark Fate, which currently has a 6.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb. Terminator Dark Fate premiered on November 11, 2019, and I watched it in the theaters when it came out.
Terminator Dark Fate was directed by Tim Miller, who also directed Deadpool in 2016. It stars Mackenzie Davis as Grace, an augmented human sent back to the past to protect Donnie Ramos. Mackenzie has been seen as Kate Mandel in The Turning, Mariette in Blade Runner 2049, or Yorkie in the Black Mirror episode San Junipero. Side note, I've seen The Turning when it first came out in theaters. Did not like it, did not understand it, but I did see the adapted one on Netflix, and I recommend that one way more than the movie. And also the San Junipero episode on Black Mirror, super good. 10 out of 10 right there. Next, we have Natalia Reyes, who you may have seen as Rhoda in M2091 or Jessica in Cumbia Ninja. She plays Donnie Ramos, the leader of the Resistance. And lastly, for our cast and crew, we have Gabriel Luna, who you may have seen as Robbie Reyes or Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Paco Contreras in Wicked City. Gabriel plays the Rev 9, the Terminator sent back to hunt and kill Danny. As usual, we have our normal cast of Sarah Connor being played by Linda Hamilton and the T-80 Terminator being played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I feel like if you've seen any, you know them too, so I don't have to really recap them. Small disclaimer that I'm going to be doing a second video about things I liked, disliked, and questioned throughout this movie. So you won't get a detailed thoughts at the end of this video, but there will be one in about 2 weeks that will be way more detailed and go over my full thoughts with this movie. Timestamps will be down below. Our first scene is a distraught Sarah talking to authorities and adamantly saying we aren't safe. This scene is intercut with the actual credits itself. Sarah begins the narration and gives us a reminder of what happened in the previous Terminator movies and how she changed the future by protecting her son John. Set after the events of T2, we see Sarah and John enjoying life by a beach when they are suddenly attacked by a T-80 Terminator. The Terminator ignores Sarah and is successful in killing John. In 2020, a young Mexican couple are hanging near a bridge when we see our main character Grace drop out from the sky. They approach Grace to help her. At the same time, the police see them carrying a naked white girl to their car and arrest the couple. They try to help Grace, but she senses their guns and attacks all of the police officers. Before leaving, she takes the male's clothes in his car and then drives away. At the same time, I'm assuming Danny is on her way home from some unknown location, and by the time she makes it home, it's morning time. She wakes her brother Diego up and reminds her father that he has a doctor's appointment. We don't know what happened to Danny's mom, but it's not used in the plot at all, so I don't care either. Danny and Diego head to the factory for work. Upon arriving, they see a machine working at Diego's usual station, and a manager tells him that the boss wants to speak with Diego, but Danny decides to go instead. Back at home, an advanced Terminator, the Rev 9, has appeared and goes to Danny's apartment. Her father answers the door and the Rev 9 asks if Danny is home. He calls her by her full name, Daniela, which alerts her father that this may not be a friend to Danny. Danny goes to speak to the boss and he basically tells her that machines work better and Diego isn't as good as she is. Grace is making her way into the factory after borrowing a worker's uniform. She enters the factory with a shotgun in tow. The Rev 9, disguised as Danny's father, infiltrates the automobile assembly plant where he spots Diego. He asks Diego where Danny is, but the Rev 9 is able to spot Danny on her way back. The Rev 9 transforms the lunch bag into a gun and is about to shoot Danny when Grace begins shooting him. With the Rev 9 temporarily incapacitated, Grace is trying to get Danny and Diego out of the factory. The Rev 9 gets back up and begins chasing them through the factory. Grace is able to get Danny temporarily out of the way as we enter a fight scene. With Diego's help, they slow down the Rev 9 again. And we enter a fight scene, and with Diego's help, they slow down the Rev 9 again and are able to find a truck outside of the factory. Grace introduces herself to the siblings and relays that she is here from the future to protect Danny. They are speeding away when the Rev 9 breaks through the wall with his own souped-up truck. As Grace is trying to get away, an 18-wheeler blocks their path, so Grace begins driving in reverse. They make their way to the highway, and the Rev 9 is gaining speed on them. Grace spots some rods in the back of the truck and asks Danny to take the wheel, but Danny exclaims that she doesn't know how to drive, so Diego takes over the wheel. She takes the rods and throws them through the windshield, and some of them pierce the Rev 9. The Rev 9, using its ability to split into two distinct entities, its cybernetic endoskeleton and shape-shifting liquid metal exterior, splits into who we'll call Gabriel while the Rev 9 continues driving the truck. Grace throws the last rod into the truck, causing it to crash, while Gabriel jumps onto the bed of the truck. She's able to knock him away, but not before Gabriel is able to pierce the tires, causing the truck to crash as well as Grace to be flown from the truck. Gabriel is run over by a truck before he can get up and pursue them again. Diego is punctured by one of the rods, and Grace tries to save him, but both he and Grace know he isn't going to survive. They see the Rev 9 speeding down in the same truck that ran him over, and Grace pulls Danny out of the car just in time for the cars to crash, killing Diego. As they are trying to get away, they get cornered by the Rev 9 and Gabriel. Suddenly, Sarah arrives, and she shoots Gabriel, causing him to fall off the ledge, and uses a missile launcher at the Rev 9. She delivers a great line and goes to handle Gabriel. Grace takes this opportunity to take Sarah's car and drive away. Grace is starting to power down because she was augmented for short bursts of energy. She asks Danny to look for some water, but Danny is reasonably freaking out about the truth bomb that Grace just doled on her about her dad being dead since the Rev 9 copied him. Grace begins blacking out, so Danny forcibly pulls the car over and tries to alert the cops, but Grace reminds her that the Rev 9 would just kill all of them. They get back in the car with Danny driving now, and she takes him to a pharmacy so Grace can get medicine. Inside the pharmacy, the pharmacist won't give Grace the medicine without a prescription, so Grace uses her gun to force her way into the back room to get her medication. When they leave, Sarah's outside with a new car waiting for them. Danny, Sarah, and Grace retreat to a motel. Sarah injects Grace with some medicine, which kind of segues us into Grace entering a flashback, or flash forward, technically, about a war. In this war, she is tasked with protecting the injured commander and getting them back to the base. The battle is rough and Grace is stabbed multiple times, but she is able to save the commander. Back in the present, Sarah is holding a gun at Grace's head, but Grace quickly disarms hers. We learn that Grace is from a different future than Sarah is aware of, and Skynet nor John exists in Grace's future. Though Grace doesn't want Sarah's help, she obliges because Sarah clearly knows how to avoid/kill the Terminators. Sarah reveals that she found them because in the years since John's death, she has received encrypted messages detailing the locations of arriving Terminators, each ending with the message for John, allowing her to destroy them to avert Skynet's return. Grace explains that humanity is threatened by an AI called Legion, originally developed for cyber warfare. When Legion became a threat to humans, an attempt was made to neutralize it with nuclear weapons, resulting in a nuclear holocaust and the AI creating a global network of machines to terminate the human survivors. Grace traced Sarah's messages to Laredo, Texas, which conveniently is also some coordinates that were tattooed on her before she went back in time. She was told to go to those coordinates if she needed help. Understandably so, Sarah is hesitant to go to Texas with there being a legal Mexican citizen, Sarah herself, who is wanted in all 50 states, and Grace, who doesn't actually exist in this current time period. They make their way to Danny's uncle, and on the train, Grace tells us that food was scarce and she almost died for the little food she had until someone came and saved her. Sarah continually tells Danny that her room is dangerous and that's why Grace needs to protect her. Using Danny's uncle, they all are about to cross through the Mexican border, but the Rev 9 is watching them. He tells the Border Patrol to watch out for the group so that when they cross the border, they're immediately caught by Border Patrol. As they're taking the prisoners to their cars, the Rev 9 attempts to crash the drone into Danny, but Grace, with her superhuman abilities, is able to knock Danny out of the way, avoiding the crash. At the detention center, Grace is taken to the medical room as she passed out from the crash and has some severe wounds. Danny and Sarah are in a cage together. The Rev 9 shows up just as the patrolmen come to take Sarah away, considering she's wanted for a shit ton of crimes and she's their most interesting prisoner. Grace finally wakes up and fights the medical personnel. She asks one of the workers where they keep the prisoners and then takes their clothes. Grace spots the Rev 9 and pulls a fire alarm, which allows the guard with Sarah to let his guard down, and Sarah is able to free herself from them. Grace frees the prisoners so that they crowd around the Rev 9 and get Danny. As they're heading out, the Rev 9 is fighting with patrol officers and Sarah is making her way to them. There's a chopper outside, so Grace powers it up, and at that same time, the Rev 9 makes it out. Sarah also comes out, and Danny hops off the chopper, shooting at the Rev 9, giving Sarah some extra time to make it. Sarah is able to make it on the chopper, but Grace reprimands her for risking her life for Sarah. Grace finally admits that Danny is the resistance leader and not her womb. Danny is John. They arrive at their source, where they discover the same T-800 that murdered John is at this location. Having fulfilled its mission and with Skynet no longer existing, the T-80 was left aimless. Through learning, however, it became self-aware. During that time, it learned from humanity and developed a conscience, taking the name Carl and adopting a human family. After learning how his actions affected Sarah and being able to detect the location of temporal displacements, Carl decided to forewarn Sarah of other Terminators being sent back to give her purpose in an attempt to make amends. Carl offers to join them against the Rev 9, and they make preparations to destroy it, deciding that they'll need an EMP to shock the Rev 9. Anticipating the Rev 9's arrival, Carl bids his family farewell and tells them to escape. They meet up with Major Dean, who gives them the 2 EMPs. Grace and Carl notice a chopper coming towards them and it's the Rev 9 shooting at them. They are able to get away to the military base and take a C-5 Galaxy to escape. The Rev 9 crashes his chopper and leaps onto the ledge of the airplane. Carl, Sarah, and Danny are able to push the Rev 9 off the ledge and close the door. Grace doesn't know where they're going to go, but they should be good in the air. Carl has some bad news though. The EMPs were destroyed in the shootout. During the flight, Grace reveals that Danny becomes the future founding commander of the Resistance, as well as her rescuer and adoptive mother. The Rev 9 is able to find his own airplane, a KC-10 extender, and nudges it into theirs, creating a gaping hole. The plane is going to crash, so Grace and Sarah are trying to secure Danny in the Humvee while Carl fights with the Rev 9. The door to the cargo bay is jammed, so Carl uses his grenade launcher, I'm not a gun girl, so don't come for me, to blast open the cargo bay, allowing them to leave. As the planes are crashing, Carl is still fighting with the Rev 9, and Grace is opening the parachutes on the Humvee. The Humvee lands at the hydro power plant, with Carl and the Rev 9 falling into the river. The Rev 9 takes care of Carl and heads back to the Humvee, while Grace is realizing that their positioning is not going to last as they are on the edge. She sees the Rev 9 and cuts the straps, allowing the Humvee to fall into the river while she fights the Rev 9. As the current is pushing them around, the Rev 9 shows up and attempts to kill Danny, but Sarah is able to shoot it a couple of times. Sarah tells Danny to get the parachute and tangle the Rev 9 up in it the next time he comes, and she does just that. They swim up to the top and meet up with Grace, who has powered down. They try to open the door to the plant, but everyone is too weak, and luckily Carl shows up and has Grace's medicine, a gun, and opens the door for them. They decide to make the hydro plant their kill switch and stop running. The Rev 9 arrives and attempts to coax Carl into giving Danny to him since they were built for the same thing. Of course, all of them decline and Grace and Carl begin fighting with the Rev 9. After briefly disabling Grace and Carl, the Rev 9 goes after Danny, but Sarah is able to keep him away long enough for Carl and Grace to recoup. Gabriel goes after Grace and the Rev 9 goes after Carl. They're each able to disable the Rev 9 and Gabriel, but of course he comes back together. With a strong team effort, Sarah shoots the Rev 9 back, and Carl and Grace force the Rev 9 into a spinning turbine, causing an explosion that critically damages the 2 Terminators while mortally wounding Grace. The severely damaged Rev 9 endoskeleton incapacitates Sarah, forcing Danny to confront it herself. A dying Grace tells Danny to use her power source to destroy the Rev 9. Danny tries to fight it, but is quickly overpowered. Upon Sarah's insistence, Carl reactivates itself and restrains the Rev 9, allowing Danny to stab it with Grace's power source. Carl drags itself and the Rev 9 over a ledge right before the power core explodes, destroying them both. Sometime later, Danny and Sarah watch a 10-year-old Grace at a playground with her family. Sarah tells Danny that she needs to get ready, with Grace watching as the pair drive off. The end. So I only have 2 things to point out from my notes. The reason I'm not saying that the commander earlier is Danny that Grace was saving is because Grace makes it a point herself to say, I need to protect your commander. And if she knew it was Danny and this is someone who she, saw as a motherly figure, she would have said something like, I need to protect my commander. So I'm just going to assume it's not hers. Secondly, I did not know that the actress that plays the young Grace in the present is the same actress that plays the young Grace in the future. Just stupid on my part. I give this movie 4 out of 4 stars. Like I said earlier, I will be doing a more in-depth review of this movie for my next video, so make sure you subscribe and tune in for that. But just for spoilers' sake, I absolutely loved this movie, and I have now watched it 6 times with no hesitation. This movie was set up to be a sequel to T2, and I think it did it well. I am not one of those Terminator fans who had some attachment to John, so I did not care one bit when he died in the beginning. Not even a little. Yeah, this is basically a retelling of all the other Terminator movies, but who cares? It still looks cool and it all made sense. Most of the comments I've been seeing have been saying that this is a female empowerment movie and that ruined it. But I didn't even see this as a female empowerment movie. Sarah has always been a main and strong female character, and it had the usual protagonist and antagonist in it. I don't know, it seemed like a normal movie set in 2020 with 2020 issues, and it was done well to me. One question I have for you. Did you see this as a female empowerment movie? Thanks for listening to me drawl on about this cool movie, and I hope that you press the like button to let me know I'm doing awesome. I post a review once a week, typically on Wednesday mornings, so see you next time. Also, shout out to 2 of my videos hitting 1,000 views, The Witch Subversion, which you should watch on Netflix, and The Twin Murders, which you should also watch on Netflix. Thanks, guys.